Hey, it's Central Valley Business. I'm your host, Steve Walling. My guest for this segment is Kanya Ellington with Women's Workforce, or WowFed, as we like to say. Kanya, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're back with us. We have all sorts of things, equality, to talk about.
Yes.
And so let's just start right from the get. First off, let's talk about the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we are Women's Workforce Federation, and our mission is to lift up and empower women, particularly women that work. And we realized that in order to do that, we really needed to be addressing working conditions and the gender pay gap.
And it really has kind of been in the news somewhere between the top of the front page and the middle of the front page, the bottom of the front page, but it's been on the front page a lot in many different ways.
Absolutely.
And a lot of outspoken people, and there's a lot of stuff out there. But more importantly, it's really the troops that are doing the work on the ground, so to speak, and that's what you're doing and your organization. So what's the state of affairs right now? What are we looking at?
So it's tough right now for women.
Yeah.
And on average, women make about 18% less than men. But that's the national average, and we find that that's significantly higher here in the Central Valley.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, Kanya, is that in any particular niche of business or employment, or is that pretty much across the spectrum?
So we've been looking at city governments and county governments, and at the government level, at the transparent California data.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, what do we find? What's the information that this information has given us?
Well, we are finding that there's evidence of a gender pay gap, and that in some cases as much as 30-40%.
Really?
Right.
And okay, so we get this information. What do we do with that now?
So what we do is we approach the city governments and the county governments, and we say, look, here's your data, and we think that you may have a compliance issue, and we'd like to help you resolve that and show you some ways to...
To quote Dr. Phil, how's that working for you?
Well, we've actually had a pretty positive response. Yeah.
Awesome.
We are finding that employers, they have a lot on their plates trying to do all the things that they do, and I think that a lot of employers are just overwhelmed, and they don't know how.
I want to ask you, how can I, as an employer, not know that I'm not an equal pay employer for equal position? I mean, how can I, I've got... person A who is male doing this job with these responsibilities, and person B who's female doing essentially the same job, same responsibilities. They've both been with me the same amount of time, and this one is, 18%, possibly even 30% more than this one. How can I not know that as an employer?
So if you had these two individuals, when you hired them to do the job, okay, how did you decide what you were going to pay them?
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's where it starts.
All right, that's where it starts.
Right.
All right. So you've gotten some information, and you're approaching these, governmental and other business organizations. And how well received are you with this?
It's been very well received.
Has it?
Yes, and
good.
By and large, they. I think that most of the institutions that we're reaching out to really don't know how. They're overwhelmed. And so, being that my background is in science, that we've really kind of taken it apart and unpacked it and said, look, we need to look at the data, and then we need to take these actions to address the data, and then we need to go back and look at the data again and see how it's evolving.
So not only do you inform them, you help them maybe lay out a plan.
Exactly.
And then you follow up with them to see how the plan's unfolding.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
How much resistance are you finding? I mean, have you run into resistance out there?
I haven't run into resistance
yet.
Well,
that's awesome also.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like I told you before we went on camera, I have 3 daughters, and it's they're not kids anymore. They're out in the workforce, and it's as a parent, it's important to me that I feel that they're being, I don't want to say necessarily respected, but they're being evaluated at the same level as any other competitor for the position they're going for based on merit.
Absolutely.
And
right.
that includes not only getting the job, but getting paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And getting promoted and having access
Oh,
to
we gotta go to
opportunities
promotion
for
too, huh?
professional development.
Oh, that's great.
Right? And
So, do you go out and contact organizations and governments, or do they come to you and say, well, we got some questions? How's that work?
so we've been reaching out to them and contacting them. So I've been making a preliminary report, and then I mail them the preliminary report. I reach out to them on social media, and
you're getting pretty good feedback and response.
very good feedback.
That's excellent. So where are we going to go from here, Kanya?
Well, I would love for our viewers to check us out on social media and talk about how you can close the gender pay gap where you are, and if you need help.
Stop. Time out. How do I get a hold of you on social media?
Oh, okay. So we're on LinkedIn.
Okay.
We're on Facebook.
Okay.
We're on Instagram, and
Okay.
we're on Twitter.
So we got some of the social media stuff out there. What are we looking for? How do I, what do I type in to get a hold of you?
Oh, www.wowfed.org.
WowFed, just like it sounds.
Just like it sounds.
WOWFED, right?
Yes.
.org.
Yes.
And if I'm an employer and I would like possibly to have an evaluation,
Absolutely.
or if I'm an employee and I'm thinking, things don't look real equal here, and maybe I
Right.
have some questions.
Absolutely.
Either way, I can reach out to you.
You sure can. We would love to help.
And what other types of people or organizations would benefit from contacting you?
Anyone who has employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, so this is, we're running down the end of 2018, and you're going to come back in about 6 months. You're going to give me a report on how things are going, right?
Yes, I will.
I want you to do that. I want to keep on top of it. It's important.
Wonderful.
It really is important, and it's good to see that, people are beginning to become aware of it in a way that it's no longer just kind of backroom talk, so to speak.
Right.
Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
WowFed. Get a hold of them, and I'll see you when we come back.